Kia ora. My name is Andrew Thrift. I'm from New Zealand Government Procurement. A thrilling title indeed. And I was just thinking it must be very strange for people overseas who are watching this to see two gentlemen stand so close to each other, because we can here, yes. And I'd also like to take issue with the idea that it's post-COVID. It's actually pre-post-COVID at the moment. So we're in what we call purgatory, where we're waiting for something to change. But over here, we're fine. We can all shake hands and sit very close to each other, which is wonderful. Really, what I wanted to do today is talk about what our role is for all of government procurement, how we see that to maybe overcome a few myths. How many people in here are suppliers? That's here in Wellington. Okay, cool. That means the rest of you are government, so I have to be careful what I actually say. I don't want to get lynched. So really, I wanted to talk about what's changed for us. One of the big things that's changed within our part of government, I don't know about you, the rest of you guys from government, is the speed of things that are moving along. When it comes to recovery, economic recovery, procurement plays a large part of that. It always did. I think it's one of my slides here that says it's $42 billion a year is what government spends, which is 20% of the GDP. So it is important to get that right. A part of that is getting it right, means not spending it in a profligate manner. Every $1 million we save is a lot of nurses, teachers and policemen, which are always useful things. But now things are moving very quickly in our ministry and in our part of it. Things that would normally have taken a couple of weeks or months, like the minister wants to know this, it's now literally days, and cabinet papers are going up in a week and then coming back with the, okay, do it then sort of thing. So I think that's good, because I came from outside of government and I like things to move quickly on my tax dollar. Now, if I press this, what will happen? Ah, that's good. So, by the way, if you've got any questions, just put your hand up and shout out. Otherwise, it's just me, me, me. And mother used to say, that's not a good thing, Andrew. 3 themes. This is basically what we were doing, okay? Building a productive, sustainable and inclusive economy. So we've already heard about the rules. I'm supposed to genuflect when I say rules, but I won't. Effectively, they're based on some precepts, which are the principles. So I often get asked in my role, this rule, that rule, can we do that, can't we do that? The rules are stopping me doing this. They're not. So here's the thing, the principles which are at the start of the rules, you've obviously all read them and know this, so I apologise, is plan and manage for great results, okay? So nobody is going to say, no, we're not doing that. Be fair to all suppliers. So you suppliers in the room, that's what we would like government to do, okay? Get the right supplier, so some of you will be upset, some of you will be happy. Get the best deal for everyone. So that means don't just do it on price, because if you pay nothing, you'll get rubbish, basically, or you'll get somebody upset who's going out of business. So it's not always just about that. And then it does say, play by the rules. And the rules are around being accountable, transparent, and reasonable. So I'm not here to sell the rules to you, but I do know that in some other parts of the world, they are seen as a very good example of how to do procurement. I know that in some Australian government circles, if somebody says to their boss, what do I do about this? They'll point them at our rules, because they're seen as a bit of a blueprint. And I think we did win an international UNESCO award for it. Again, not here to sell you the rules, but that's the 4th time I've mentioned it. On we go. Improving the well-being of New Zealanders. Oh, if I go back. Thank you. Improving the well-being of New Zealanders and their families. Well, you know, you would expect us to try and do that. I'll talk a bit about that as well, because I think the last guys were talking about purchasing from New Zealanders. So there's something I need to say about that. And providing new leadership by government. We got audited by the Auditor General recently, not a pleasant occurrence. And really, they've said that we need to do leading, whatever that means. That's not very good English, is it? We need to lead procurement within government. So we are basically getting ready to do that and push that forward. So on we go. So what happened? I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence, but this was something that came from the report that I've got down there. Contract by 3% if we're lucky. The GDP is forecast to decline. It says June, but we haven't got those figures yet, so it probably could be as good as that or worse. Unemployment, that's a real awful thing for people, is to increase. peaking at 9.8%. So you're back to 2008 sort of levels or even worse. And again, I've reiterated that we do or did spend 20% of GDP. So there's a lever there that we can pull. The government can pull that lever and make it a real change for people. So what are we doing about that? How are we going to change it? Oh, there we go. So as I say, these things are moving very quickly. This is where we've got to so far. So what I'm going to say here is, this is a strategy, okay? So you know what a strategy is. Like in the World War II, it was win the war, okay? So the idea here is basically to pull the country out of a nosedive and use the money to try and spread the wealth. So our broader outcomes did come out, thankfully, last year, and part of that was social value, which means including more people in the money that we spend. So effectively, this whole thing really did supercharge our broader outcomes, which was a good thing. Accelerate government procurement approaches. This is going back to the rules stop me doing things, okay? Again, I'm not going to get involved in that because I don't think they do. If you do think they do, please talk to us about it, because we don't know what we don't know. If you say this rule is stopping me doing something, literally 9 times or more out of 10, we can help you with that. We are looking at construction, because our construction's a big one, a lot of money being spent. I'll talk more about that in a moment. Increase access to government procurement, New Zealand businesses. Okay, elephant in the room. You're not allowed to put in your tender documents, you've got to be from New Zealand, we're going to buy local. Okay, we're only going to buy from New Zealand. We have trade agreements that say that's not possible. So here's the thing. When people are planning their procurement, what we advise is that they put in a clause or a request to understand how the supplier will bring value to the local community. Yeah, which is a better way of putting it, because otherwise, if you're saying you're only local, like I look after local government, what are you going to do? Get a compass and draw a radius around your building of 50 miles or 60 miles or 70 miles? What happens at 75 miles? What, 80 miles? If it's about bringing value to the local economy, it could be somebody in, I don't know, Texas or Britain who's bringing that value in, not just we're going to provide you with this service, we're also going to do this, we're going to bring on local apprentices, we're going to add this value. It's something that you can consider in your evaluation. It might be that the local companies do win, but you've got to go back to the be fair to all suppliers, and that means everybody on this planet, okay? So that's where we are with that. I'm happy to answer questions about this because it takes a little bit of thinking about. We can't say local, but we want local. We want the money to be spread out more evenly within the country, but we can't stipulate that. But there are ways to look at that. Also, I will say that if you just say it's got to be local, there might be somebody outside that circle that you've drawn that's got better value that you don't, you basically shut the door on it. You don't know. I was dealing with one local government that was desperate to get something done. Don't you love this? We've run out of time. We've got to do it. We've got to get this bloke in. He's done it before. And this is for billions of dollars worth of investment. And so they asked us, can we do that direct to point? And we said, well, no, you can't. We don't have a big stick, right? We've got a pointed carrot at best. So our pointed carrot said, don't do that. Everybody was very cross. Basically, they went to market very grudgingly on to get, okay, we'll do it then, like Kevin, the teenager. They were good enough to come back a few weeks later to say that they're very glad they'd done it because somebody overseas could provide them with better value, better price, had done a few more than the local people they were thinking of doing. So they didn't know what they didn't know, okay? It wasn't just us saying you've got to do it because that's the rule. It actually is there for a reason. It's good procurement practice. Okay, I'm still talking about the rules, aren't I? I said I wasn't going to. Enable the procurement functional leader, that's us, to more effectively drive change. Yeah, so we've got work to do. I was talking to somebody else in here about raising the game of procurement within government. It is patchy. I think the people in this room, MOD, NZDIA, you do it well, okay? But you can imagine there are other different sizes, different precepts. Some agencies do it well. Some people think it's purchasing. Some people do it, plan it, do it well. Improve government procurement practices. That's what we've got to do. Ah, there we go. So that was the strategies. These are some tactics. So this is a moving feast at the moment. The one that I want to talk about after this is talking about construction, which we have actually got going. So you may have heard about shovel-ready construction, which basically said to local government and agencies, if you've got something that's about to happen, tell us. If money was the problem, it might not be the problem anymore. There was about 800 requests received by Treasury, and they are slowly sending out, effectively it's like winning the lottery, isn't it? Well done, you've got it. As part of that though, which is interesting, is they get a tick sheet that says, can you do procurement well? And if you answer no to any of them, you've got to contact us at MB, which should be fun. So we're going to get involved in raising the game of procurement. We already run some workshops for agencies about procurement, Procurement 101, demystifying procurement. We've got training on our website. That's going to get beefed up as well. Using the rules of procurement effectively. This is around what you're going to say to me is your rules stop me doing this. I think it was Shane Jones who said we're going to cut the red tape, which caused a flurry. And then when we asked agencies what rules are stopping you, we didn't get any answers. So I think it's really about understanding how the rules can help you move along. Part of it comes down to things like early engagement. I was good to hear Paul talk about that. If suppliers know something's coming, they're less likely to go, oh, that looks too hard, we don't know about it. When I was on your side, in the supply side, the rule was if we didn't know the RFP was coming out, we didn't bid, because it was just a waste of our time and effort. So if you've already got people in the room, at least you can overcome their objections or understand why they will or won't, or will bring them along with you. You can then, of course, because of our rules, you can reduce the time the tenders out there as well. On that, by the way, we just heard about the future procurement opportunities, FPOs. We love our TLAs in government. In GETS, you all know what GETS is, yes, Government Electronic Trading System. So effectively, we're asking agencies now, they normally do an annual procurement plan. We compile it and we publish it. What we're going to do is use GETS to do that. So this time round in October, we asked for the APP. We're asking people to do that one last time just to make sure it still works. And then it will be published on GETS. So it'll be like a future opportunity. There's no commitment. There's no end date on it. It is just really to start that conversation and help things move along a bit quicker. So that's one of the things we're doing. Increased access to government procurement for New Zealand businesses. Again, the broader outcomes did come out, somebody said last October. A lot of agencies are digesting that now, and they're trying to understand how that would apply. We recently got asked by the minister, what are they all doing out there? We went out to market, we asked all the agencies, all those of you we asked, I am sorry about that, fill in this spreadsheet, yeah, I know. But the great thing about that was, it came back with a whole lot of really good examples. So people are starting to do it within government. They're starting to take it on board. Broader outcomes, though, they're not a doing thing, they're a thinking thing, okay? So you consider where appropriate. It won't be appropriate when, was it Paul was saying, when you're buying widgets? No, it's not going to be that. But so long as you've considered it where it's appropriate. So when we're talking about increasing access for local and small businesses, what does that look like? So that might be split your procurement tenders up into smaller pieces, because some smaller companies, to spend 2 weeks replying to you, that's them dead in the water. The other one is pay your bills in 10 days, like the ministers have asked now. You know, that sort of thing can wipe out a small contractor. We've also asked that people look after their subcontractors as well. So make sure it's not good enough anymore to say, I signed the contract with that company. How was I to know they were shipping people in from the Philippines and paying them $5 an hour? That's no longer acceptable. You are now responsible for that. So having said that, is this working or is somebody else doing it? Always wanted to know that. Get myself a drink of water. So back to the microphone. The construction sector accord. This is an example of how we've actually started to move along. Thank goodness we got the construction sector accord going in April, just before COVID hit. Effectively, it's the top 13 construction companies and a lot of our CEOs in government who've agreed. I think the problem was that the industry was kind of dying, that they were looking at where's the next generation of workers coming from. We're being pushed down on price. It's not profitable. Our margins are being eroded. We're getting 3-year crappy deals. Year 2.5, we're trying to get out of there. Councils particularly and local and government were saying, we're not getting very good service. What's going on? The Christchurch experience, I think, opened people's eyes to that sort of vacuum where everybody goes there, works like mad, and then, oh my goodness, nothing's happening. So part of this is opening that early engagement, if you like, at a very high level. It's there to give us a pipeline. So I know that my next one's here. It isn't me. No, you see, it isn't me. Streamline procurement, a procurement pipeline. So Infracom, which were part of MB, are now running a procurement pipeline, if you like, of future opportunities in the construction industry. They've said over a certain amount, but I've been putting stuff in there that's less. And that is really around giving a heads up to the industry, also to government. So if Treasury have said, here's your 50 million for that work, and somebody else has just got the 50 million, why don't we stretch it out a bit and do one after the other rather than doing them in parallel? You see what I mean? So you don't have a whole lot of workers working like mad for 6 months and then nothing happens. We're also looking at our other broader outcome, which is sustainable construction, which is another part of the accord. One other thing that we've done recently, which is a real thing that would apply to people in here, we've produced a 2-page contract, heads of agreement, for the start of any construction project. So instead of having to go to your lawyers, I think we want to use these guys, and their lawyers go, I think we want to provide services to that agency, you can just sign this and start the project, okay? The good thing about that is that's been agreed with 13 CEOs and Carolyn, my CE from MB. So nobody can naysay it. So off you go. And lawyers will only answer questions you ask them. So if you don't have to talk to them, then that's absolutely fine. It isn't the main contract, doesn't get rid of the 39110 or whatever that one is. It doesn't do that, but it allows you to get things going. So it's speeding up that thing. So we said one of the problems was, yes, we have a handshake and then it's 3 months before we get some sort of contract or some sort of agreement before we start. This means they can sign this thing and off they go. So that's one of the things that's come out of it. The other thing is that procurement pipeline, which I think is proving to be quite useful. Very early days, but as I say, thank God we got it going before COVID because it was very useful, particularly with the shovel-ready stuff coming out as well. So you've got a whole lot of agencies out there, particularly in local government, who are getting more money than they've ever dreamt of. We've got to make sure they spend it properly, particularly as it's an election year. Training and education is another big part of that. A lot of the procurement RFPs that are coming out have got that in them, which is a broader outcome, but it's also just blooming good sense. Because if you think about it, like New Plymouth District Council took their suppliers into the local schools and colleges and said, these people need these skills from your kids when they hit the road. And it was a good virtuous circle all around. The educators went, finally, somebody's told us what we should be doing. The construction industry said, great, we've got people coming out who are skilled at the various levels, from the guy with the lollipop, stop, go, to the architects. And of course, the local agencies are now picking up more constructive, see what I did there, engagement with the construction industry. We've got examples of this on our website below. So I'm just going back to a word from our sponsors. Effectively, these are the broader outcomes. As I say, it's an ill wind that blows nobody any good. And in a way, the COVID experience did blow us some good. It also blew some good into our property portfolio, but I'll talk about that anon. Increase New Zealand businesses access. I think I've banged on about that enough, really. It's about making sure that everybody can take part that wants to. There's also a certain amount of, with Maori and Pacifica as well. Part of that piece, just as a for instance, so you remember what I've said, is allowing oral submissions or responses to tenders, because their tikanga is more spoken than our Western, let's write you a few pages and look good. Increase the size and skill of the construction workforce. I've talked about that as well. That's really a two-way street. Improving employment standards and health and safety. That is not a new law. There's nothing in there that's unusual. That basically wants people to do a good job and then go home safely in the evening, particularly in things like forestry and security and cleaning. The last one could turn out to be the most important one, reducing emissions and waste. A lot of our contracts that we run in NZGPP, our suppliers for our contracts are onto this. reducing waste and reducing carbon. We've had a big push for e-vehicles. Those of you in government, if you want an e-vehicle, the time is right. We've just expanded our catalogue now to include more. And we've got under 1-day rentals and things like that using Mevo, which is an electric vehicle company. Any questions about broader outcomes? I'm going to be here for a while, and I can talk about this for, better not. And I'm pressing the button now. Yeah, okay. So near the end, thank you for bearing with me. So there's a cabinet paper that I can't share because it's gone to cabinet. It hasn't been lodged yet, but that basically has got a lot of good stuff in it. I would really advise you to keep your eyes open for that. If you want to send me an email, I'll put a list together, and when I do see it myself, I will send it out. That really does, for my branch, look like a whole lot of work's coming to go out and lead the piece. It's also talking about the mandate and things like that I'm not allowed to say. Increase supplier engagement. I mean, I have been asked by some procurement people who really don't know what they're doing, I don't think, which isn't their fault. They don't know what they don't know. Can I talk to suppliers before we go to tender? Yeah, it's your job. Okay, so we're trying to help that. Agencies engaged with NZDIA and Construction Accord. Yeah, if you are looking at building, or if any of that spark, please talk to me, because I'm picking up a lot of agencies now who are considering doing things and they're going, but we've never done it before. That's where we can really help. We're employing, I think, about 5 specialists who are going to go out and talk to agencies that are literally going to just be doing construction. So they'll be construction consultants. Resources, procurement.gov.nz, everything's there. Some people don't like going there, so come to me. If you can't, I'll hand out my cards. Construction sector accord, it's interesting to see, even if it doesn't apply to you, because that's government and industry holding hands and running, really running. And if you've got any questions and you forget who I am, this is easy, procurement@mb.gov.nz, and I'll see it and think, ha, they didn't remember my name. So my name's Andrew Thrift. Thank you for your attention. Has anybody got any questions?
Ask Huntly and Paul to come back to the stage, and then we'll...
Just one question, please, right? And turn it on. There'll be a slight pause.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm just wondering, from a procuring agency, late in August, we've got to report back to MB on our implementation of broader outcomes. Listening to your presentation here, I must admit, I think as an organisation, in terms of how we measure up against, in particular, the increasing New Zealand business access to procurement, we were looking at it solely through a lens of the money that was going to New Zealand businesses. But you seem to say that it's about access as well. Yeah. So there is the number of New Zealand businesses which are being brought potentially, not necessarily successfully, into a bidding process, whether it be as part of a prime or separately. Then that's something which you would be interested in, and we should measure that as delivering against that outcome.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a number of ways you can look at that, isn't there? Again, I'll go back to the principle, as long as you're fair to everybody, but those that come in underneath somebody or as a contractor or a subcontractor, that counts as well. So that goes on your good boy file as well. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.